Are Marines really retarded? Anyone have stories of interacting with them? Onesies and twosies are, but it would be hard to find any military without some retards in it. Onesies and twosies? The who? Onesies and twosies. Maybe some threesies if the unit is really retarded. Be Eurofag from formerly neutral country. Live in major port city with strong naval presence. Country joins NATO. Uncle Sam's Marine Corps show up shortly afterwards to do a joint exercise thing with local Navy. Marines get leave to see the city afterwards. Single squad of retard jarheads proceed to find the nearest bar. Get absolutely shit-hammered drunk. Grope woman at bar. Kicked out of bar. Pick fights with security. Get their asses beat. Run away to find whores instead. Fail to locate prostitutes. Threaten locals and demand that random people on the street inform them where all the whores are hidden. Get intercepted by the cops. Be belligerent towards the cops. Get their asses beat again, and pepper sprayed. Resist arrest. Get their asses beat a third time to the point where they're unable to resist arrest. Hauled off to jail. Videos of retards being retards posted everywhere online. Locals are pissed. Diplomatic incident ensues. All other Marines confined to quarters. Marine General and local Navy Admiral called directly to central government for meeting with the Prime Minister himself. Both men held at gunpoint by local equivalent of Secret Service. Told to get on the floor. Forced to walk the dinosaur. Okay, so this hasn't happened yet, but it's only a question of when, not if. You bitch. How dare you expose my Saturday night plans before I'm drunk enough to come up with them? I remember reading a Greentext on here a long time ago about a jarhead slashing his finger off. Went to Chair Force, Doctor and on. Doctor and on had to go get something. And upon returning, finds the Marine drawing on a piece of paper with his decapitated finger. Retarded? Badass? I don't know. Take your pick. Oh, and my dad's cousin volunteered for the Marines in the middle of the Vietnam War. But instead of being sent to Vietnam, he was posted as security at a base or something in the Philippines. While it wasn't a combat post, the locals would do drive-bys on the guard hut at the front gate often. Sometime before his discharge, some jarhead was playing with an M14 and blew his own brains out in front of my dad's cousin. I remember reading a Greentext on here a long time ago about a jarhead slicing his finger off. I don't know if it was ever widely reported on, but there was also an incident where two Marines were ordered to trim some hedges, which they tried to do by holding a running walk-behind lawnmower over the top of the hedge. This resulted in one of the Marines getting both his hands amputated. I've freelanced articles for military defense tech magazines and hustled my way into covering exercises and things like that. And the Marines were funny in a kind of stupid angry way, yeah? Nothing exciting. I once covered an amphibious landing exercise and showed up at a checkpoint in the middle of a rainforest at 7 a.m. because that's where the PIO said to be. No PIO. But there were two Marines in some shitty guardhouse. I asked, "Is this where?" and immediately heard back, "We don't fucking know, sir." Also standing around watching the AAVs come to shore later near a group of Marine officers and occasionally seeing some of them glance at me like they wanted to kill me. The Marines I've interacted with were more crazy than stupid. Lots of poor life choices and poor impulse control. They also had a stick up their ass about being a Marine. Yes, they are. We got a safety brief when arriving to Kandahar Air Force Base to stay away from the sewage pond. This was because two Marines bet each other which one could swim across it first. I watched Marines try to lift an M1000 trailer that had an Abrams tank on it with just a single HEMMT. They broke the chains immediately, and when one of them snapped, it whipped the Marine in the head and cracked his Kevlar in two. My first day at Camp Leatherneck, I saw two Marines in full kit riding a two-seater bicycle on the shittiest gravel road. I had a couple Marine passengers. While stopped at a convoy halt, some Afghan kid stole a loose spare tire. One of the Marines chased down this kid, drugged the kid and rolled the tire back to the truck, then screamed at him to apologize to my sergeant multiple times. And he obviously didn't know English. I love those crazy bastards. TLDR, Marines are the retarded bastard children we all fucking love. I watched a Marine almost hang himself at the JBSA Lackland bus stop by getting his lanyard stuck on a beam he was hanging from to do pull-ups. The Marines are good, the most solid guys you'll ever work with. The Marine Corps is deeply retarded. I have one from when I was in AIT and we shared a DFAC with Ordnance Marines. Be me, eat at only DFAC I have ever seen that was so bad it actually made people sick. Sit down at table next to Marines. Hear a Marine say to his buddy unironically, "This is the best food I've ever had while I've been in the military." At that moment I understood why Marines ate crayons. Most crayons are non-toxic and at least won't get you physically sick. I wanted to cry and tell him, "It'll be okay. It's only at most 7-ish more years. It does get better." Do not mock Marines. Pity them. The Army treats its soldiers like shit at times, but it's still better than the Marine Corps/Navy treats their Marines. Do not im. I've been to that exact DFAC at Fort Lee, and the chow was fine. Loved the salad bar. Also, they had those little boxes of cereal. Chow at 29 Palms was genuinely great. I can see why they might say that after eating boot camp packed ham sandwiches. Yeah, we were rotating out of our deployment back in 2010. We just spent a long year in Kandahar and were sitting at KAF waiting for our ride to one of the other stands. Or maybe Kuwait. This was 15 years ago. As we were waiting, there was a platoon of Marines also waiting to rotate out. A couple buddies and I spent an hour or two bullshitting with them, swapping war stories and lies. It was super comfy. Marines are cool. Euro, I actually found them very honorable and good to deal with. The finest Americans I have known, and I don't rate the rest highly either. Did 6 years in the Corps, hated every minute of it, but had some fun with the boys. Got in trouble for doing combatives on the drill floor unattended. Camped on a hill doing retrans over a week. It got real dumb up there. Hid my buddy's rifle right before the NCOs arrived. He got smoked. It was funny. He got the rifle back. Platoon sergeant woke the whole fucking pit up at 2 a.m. in February in the field because Private Fuckhead couldn't be found. We sat in the cold and mud for 2 hours while the NCOs were looking for that retard. It fucking sucked. Loaded and unloaded a quad-con 7 times back-to-back because our staff sergeant was a fucking retard and couldn't read his own fucking packing list. Had the usual weekend safety brief of no guys in girls' rooms, no booze in the barracks, and don't rape anyone. Following Monday, everyone gets in trouble because some of the wooks had a party in their room, and one of the dudes got shit-faced and raped one of them. Whole company get yelled at by a female mahor for shitting in the same broken toilet for a month. The shit pile was so high it peaked over the edge. Whole company had to clean one fucking bathroom inside a single wide trailer out in the desert mid-December. There's more I can't remember. That's just the highlight reel. Was Private Fuckhead ever found? Well, he was here to post about it, so I guess so. You could argue everyone who joins the Marines is dumb, because of all of the ideas the Marines win battles. And their training is a continuous process that ensures it. But the idea Marines are dumb, it's more an inside motivational retard kind of joke. You have to be smart to be a Marine. Even the infantry guys have to score high in the GT fields. I would think even if you got into the Marines with lower scores, you'd still be expected to step up. Because a common practice in the Corps is making everyone a leader. And if you suck at something, then guess who gets put in charge of it? It's very common to see junior Marines in charge of big roles. Navy, E4, visiting joint base for medical. Approach Jarhead outside. Gives me a sharp salute. Good morning, sir. Return salute. Good morning, Marine. I love 'em. Still remember getting saluted by Marines at Leonard Wood during AIT. What a lovely bunch of oorahs. Look, petty officer has the word officer in it. Can you really expect a Marine to understand that doesn't mean they need to salute? Well, speaking as a corpsman, one came in with a broken foot because he thought his rain poncho would act like Batman's cloak and break his fall with wind resistance. So he jumped off a 3-story building with the highest confidence on a windy day. That should tell you all you need to know. That sounds like a deficiency of the poncho that should be rectified and given to the Army. I was a Marine and then worked with the military as a contractor, so I may be a bit biased, but after working with different branches in a civilian capacity, I learnt some things. Army. Absolute mixed bag depending on the unit. God forbid you have to work with pogs, because it'll be a bunch of Shaniquas that don't want to do a single fucking thing besides scroll on their phones and do stupid little dances while their friends scream, "Ay, ay, ay!" Navy. Weird guys with Asperger's. Girls will immediately try to suck you off, and that isn't a good thing. My coworker caught herpes. Marines. Good to work with. Will go out of their way to help with shit, even if it's not really their job. Units are also consistent. You get the same thing every time. I did feel bad for them, as they were treated poorly by their own commands compared to other services. I think the whole thing about them being dumb is partly because they aren't allowed to do anything unless they have specific permission from at least one level above the individual. Air Force. Literally just normal people for the most part. Some dumbasses, but overall they were cool to work with. The security forces guys thought they were the same thing as infantry, which was kind of amusing as a lot of them couldn't even molly their mag pouches to their vests correctly. Very easy to get things done without them having to ask 500,000 officers or SNCOs for permission. If it made sense, just do it. Coast Guard. I saw a Coast Guard guy one time. Yes, I was one. Marines are retarded in a funny way. Unlike Army soldiers who are retarded in either a sad way or a South American hustling weapons from the armory for the cartels kind of way. I can still remember the MP shooting tear gas through the windows of a bar to break up the brawl when several of the Marines realized they'd all been fucking the same slag from Puerto Rico. 60 plus were arrested. Good times. Nearly spilled my beer. Circa 2008. Be me. Be Navy. At a random base for a while because shit broke. Can't stay on ship because how it broke the rules say no go. They put us up in Marine barracks. Next door neighbor and friends playing darts on each other's center mass. Lol, nice. Be me. Be Navy. At some other random base. Marine v Navy sports ball. We lose everything but soccer. Tell them we can drink better than them. We can 100%. Go to the NEX and get tons of Bud Light. I don't know why the fuck that's what we all drank. I don't know where it started. Marines start shotgunning and pounding beers left and right. Ooh-rah or whatever. Oh shit, we might actually have a competition. Me and the boys get after it. Marines all pass the fuck out at 9:30 p.m. after beer bonging Jägermeister and doing other shit like that. Realize Marines have one speed. IDK, I like the Marines. They were retarded, but in a fun way. If anyone is wondering, I joined at 18, so I didn't realize me and the boys were all severe alcoholics. Until I got out and found out it's not normal to drink like we did. Lel. Sit back and relax, boys, and allow me to share with you one of the most insane patients I had at sick call while a corpsman with a Marine division. This is a story with a story in it. Sitting at the front desk, waiting for guys from my company to come in for sick call. A few dudes, nothing serious, and see one guy complaining of a stomach ache. Oh yeah, I'll take this. Easy to deal with. Takes plenty of time. Have an easy morning. Take him back to a room. Doc, I don't have a stomach ache. My actual problem is it burns when I piss. Of course, .jpg. I ask him the standard questions, i.e. when did this start? When was the last time you had sex? Did you use a condom? When I ask, did you use a condom? He replies with, sort of. Let me stop you right there, killer. How do you sort of use a condom? He regaled me with this story. Him and his buddy were out on the town a few nights ago at a bar off base. They are talking to a lady of one of the many fine establishments that are outside of military installations. She decides that on a Tuesday night, she is down to go back to the barracks with these two fine upstanding Marines. She's a real classy broad. They get back to the barracks, and things progress. Our hero realizes she's probably not the most purest of women, and he doesn't have a condom. He lets his buddy know the situation, and his buddy tells him, tough shit, I only have one. To which he replies, no, it's cool. When you're done, I'll just flip your condom inside out and use it. My face win. GIF related. I go get other corpsmen and have him tell the same story. Other corpsmen are laughing as hard as I did and grabbing other corpsmen. Finally, the battalion surgeon wonders what the commotion is in the patient room. Side note, at this point, our battalion surgeon has been practicing medicine with Marine units for almost 20 years. 8 of it as a corpsman and the remainder as a doctor. This level of retardation shocks even him. His face went GIF related. Whatever HM3 Anon here says to do as treatment, I am signing off on. I am not touching you. He walks out in shock, awe, disgust, and is chuckling to himself. Obviously, I punch the boar and send it out to the lab and start him on antibiotics. And as these things happen, word gets out there's a nasty in my company. First Sergeant has me, the senior line corpsman, give a sex ed class at formation that afternoon because everyone has heard the rumors. No one knows who it was, but they all have an idea because there's always one in every company. Company commander, who was a frat bro, is standing beside me trying not to laugh with everyone else. Company XO, who is a Mustang, accepts that this is just something Marines do. What's the big deal? First Sergeant is disgusted. I give the talk, and at the end of it I explain the use of condoms and ask, should you ever flip a condom inside out and use it? The company burst out into laughter. The CEO had to turn away and compose himself. First Sergeant is even more disgusted. Shut the fuck up, you nasty motherfuckers. This shit is fucking serious. Walks away in disgust and is just trying to ride out his 2 more years left and 1 deployment we gotta knock out. My face win this entire situation. It takes a special breed of fighter pilot to voluntarily seek battle and die as a rifleman. Marine aviators have managed it at least twice. Wake Island, Camp Bastion, probably Quezon too. You could say Marines exist at all times in a based twilight zone between valor and stupidity. If you could get only 1 implant to increase your odds of survival in an active war zone, which one would you get? Boobs. Either thermal vision or frag-resistant skin. Heelys. Optical camo seems an obvious choice since it also includes thermals. Sandevistan also seems a no-brainer. But really the greatest way to improve survivability would be a cyber deck, since as soon as you show you can bend literally any computer system in the world over your knee and spank the shit out of it, you won't be deployed on the front anymore anyways. A 10-inch dick and 8-inch in girth. It might not boost my combat capabilities, but it sure as hell boosts my performance on my spoils of war. You could honestly impale someone with it when you go cyber psycho. BioWare instead of cyberware. Netrunners and AIs can't explode your head in implants the second you step foot on the battlefield. Grapindex boys, where we at? Gotta be Oracle eyes. Effects active when scanning. Highlights enemies within 19.5 meters, including enemies behind cover. Highlights cameras and turrets within 39 meters. Highlights explosive devices and traps near your crosshairs and within 29 meters. These effects remain active for 60 seconds after scanning. 8 to 10 optical zoom when scanning, especially considering time slows to a near stop when scanning, so you can autistically scan everything all the time and it basically happens instantly. Imagine not replacing your legs with tank treads. Couldn't be me. Is there an implant that makes everyone believe that I am a senator's son? Does anyone know how bulletproof subdermal armor is canonically? Because if it's get mag dumped by an assault rifle and walk it off, then I'll go with that for sure. But I think it's intended more for low caliber guns and melee combat. In which case I'd probably go with some sort of optics, probably Kiroshi or whatever. But I also have to consider, how does Sandevistan work? Would I actually be running faster than people can see and possibly even dodge bullets? If so, how the hell does that work without my body literally tearing apart? All the other implants in the game are future technology, but the Sandevistan seems like straight up magic without a full body replacement as a baseline. Today we have the technology to put spider silk in the skin, making it much more resistant. Already been done. You could graft it to a person and make them pistol resistant for sure. Sandevistan was pretty baller. I'll take that. Subdermal armor is 100% an implant in CP20XX. You can up it to such a degree it makes you look uglier as a result. If the goal is to survive, why bother having any meat to damage? The Onion says thermo-optics are the answer. Never played Cyberpunk, but if I had a choice, some kind of nano-machine hyperclotting. So when you're wounded, you don't bleed out. Most casualties in war involve traumatic blood loss, usually from shrapnel or bullets that break up on impact, whether they were designed that way or they get a lucky hit on a frass plate. Being able to stop blood loss immediately after being wounded would be a game changer for soldiers. No more need for a tourniquet. as the wound would heal itself almost immediately and remain firm enough that you could continue fighting. If not that, then the masking system from genocidal organ, where you feel no pain or fear while in a combat zone. The enemy would have to literally blow you to pieces to get you to stop coming after them. Have it be a switch you can turn on and off during operations. Kerenzikov, anyone? If you're trying to survive in a war zone, this is perfect. The pros are: 1. A passive effect of keeping your body in an alert, focused state. 2. Has an active effect that functions like a Sandevistan light. 3. Constant alertness also means you will notice details that could save your life. The con is that it never turns off. Practical military augmentation would probably be a sleep reduction implant, cardio boosting, super camouflage, and super sensors, in that order. Armor, muscles, and gadgets are neat, but basically unimportant militarily. Shadowrun has a BioWare implant that expands the range of things the human GI tract can digest. Pete is one of the examples listed. It even comes free with a taste bud modification to let you eat those new things without immediately wanting to puke. That would be useful for scouts and anyone that gets trapped behind enemy lines. Whatever form of nanomachine Senator Armstrong has, the cybernetic enhancements in 2077 are mostly shit. Deus Ex alone showed the superiority of nanomachines over cybernetics. Shadowrun 4th ED literally has that. It doesn't let you punch building-sized crab robots in half, though, and your joints are still somewhat vulnerable unless you don't mind the trade-off of not being able to move at all while you have that thing active. More realistic depiction, but then Metal Gear had only ever been semi-realistic at most. Tell me what's the next big time. Which branch of the military has the best food and which country has the best food/ration? 1. Air Force. 2. Italy. Italy. Our rations are literally cheap discount off-the-shelf food. Yeah, exactly. Your MOS will have a bigger impact on your diet than the branch you're in. PJs in the Air Force will be eating the same MREs and FOB slop that grunts in the Army and USMC eat. An administrative clerk in the Army will be eating better food than a Botswan mate in the Navy 90% of the time. From a purely military and logistical standpoint, the U.S. military essentially stands alone. They have consistently blazed the path in shelf-stable rations, so much so that they even have fast food favorites like pizza. European rations are good, if not as well calibrated for optimal logistical utility. Feel free to get dysentery. Additionally, I somehow doubt 30-tier nations have matched World War II rations, much less rations from Vietnam or later. If they have serviceable rations, they are likely from an NGO, and NGOs are cowards in real war, not insurgencies. So eventually, many inadequately prepared militaries will rely on consumer goods, and God forbid, goods looted, stolen from locals. Additionally, this raises a better question. How do soldiers deal with the constipation caused by combat rations? All the sodium must plug them up, so water is a must. The soldier can only operate as long as he can sustain himself, disregarding morale, otherwise he will either surrender or die. If an attacking, or especially defending, opponent is facing serious attack, stalling and trickery would be well worth it. It would be a circus act to keep enemy soldiers off the main networks. My great-grandfather was conscripted into the German army and stuck in from mid to late war on the Western Front. The one thing he complained about was the late war rations and the ungodly gut pain they caused. The simple answer is, they just suffered with it until they were bumped off or captured. My great-gramps got his finger shot off near Kiev and sent home. When things went dire, he was recalled and sent with the army to fight the Hurtgen. He fucking hated the rations and couldn't stand eating them. He didn't want to die of the shits, so he lost the squad comm satchel and was thrown in jail for that. When French soldiers captured him, they didn't believe him. Only when he showed where he dumped the satchel and gave them a bite of the rations, they let him go with 3 bottles of beer and some bacon as a farewell present. Canada surprisingly has pretty good ones. My experience with Italian food and herbal was pasta with meat sauce and fresh bread. We considered it amazing mostly because we hadn't fresh bread in ages. The pasta and meat sauce really wasn't anything special in hindsight, probably just one step above the pasta and meat sauce our chow hall served when they served it. Although we rarely ate daylight rations and instead got stuck with whatever slop was left over at midnight. They didn't have AC in their tents, so we were happy to go back to our camp that did. Aren't other countries basically cheating with their rations when they're just canned goods that you have to cook with a camp stove or something? Obviously, you can get pretty decent food if you're willing to haul around cans of Campbell's Chunky or whatever. Most countries do that, but tend to have US-like rations as well for special cases. Having an actual MRE made specially for all armed forces is not economical unless you're the US or China. Like you never heard before. US MREs are designed to be shelf stable for years. I have eaten some that were 10 plus years old that were fine, and be able to survive something like a 200-foot fall out of the back of a C-130 with no chute and 90% of the contents to survive the drop. Most other countries' MREs are just random crap from your local supermarket shoved in a box. The US eats, breathes, and shits logistics, and it shows even in our rations. I'm used to French MREs due to, eating them for weeks sometimes. We got a train with the US Airborne last year, and some sergeant major I caught up with gave me and my squad a whole ass box of MREs. Compared to ours, they're only for half a day, but they have more kcals for sure. I still prefer ours. The sugar cookies are insane if you need energy. Beef was fine, I don't know which one it was exactly, and the peanut butter was really impossible to eat, lol. Tastes like straight up butter. Also got to see new Frenchie rations. They're bigger, bulkier, have shit like chewing gum and protein powder, and some disgusting shit like hummus I would never eat again, it's nasty. Overall, it feels a bit worse, and also a vegetarian version that stinks. They more or less copied on US ones with the packaging and everything in pouches, though not the heating system, which makes it really annoying. Submariners, and either Italy or South Korea. I liked the Spanish MREs I had on an exercise with them. They had squid in one of them, which actually tasted really good. My great-grandfather got so violently ill after eating captured Jap rations on Guadalcanal, the ship carrying their food got torpedoed, that he had to be medevaced and spent the remainder of the campaign in an Australian hospital. I think the Norwegian Arctic rations is the best I've ever had. The Italian and French videos from Steve MRE look the nicest. I've had lots of US MREs. They are edible, but not very good. There is like 1 pound of sugar in those oatmeal cookies they always put in them. They are good for 2 bites, then make you sick. They are meant to be fuel. You should be really fucking hungry, hot, and uncomfortable to truly experience how they should taste. Also, some parts of the ration should be eaten later or separately. You could probably even save half the cookie for later if you really wanted. They usually have resealable pouches for a reason. The US military is on the bleeding edge of shelf-stable products. Now they need to figure out how to deal with all the plastic garbage. I've seen tons of videos where garbage strewn around a trench gives away its position, while proper waste management solves this fairly well. There must be a better way. We need to bring back some paper/wax paper packaging that will degrade easily. Also, give the troops a ration of beer and cigarettes. I liked it when they included a 10-pack of Lucky Strikes, no filter in the ration box. The smokes killed whatever bad taste the sea rats left in your mouth. Is this the worst service rifle fielded by a supposed major power? Plastic, high cheek weld, shit trigger, shit caliber, shit mag placement. Sight being placed so high it might as well be placed on a different floor. You didn't even mention the worst bit, having the fire selector in your armpit. Compare to the L85. Gentlemen, can I get a shit check on this one? Like pottery. It's awesome. Americans just like to shit talk it because it's unobtainium for them. But the truth is, if you could buy one, you'd soon find out that you no longer have a need for your AR-15. The AR still mogs the absolute fuck out of it, Lamau. Even the Canadians agree. Another cope thread. That's one ancient looking optic right there. Even the chicks dumped it for an AR clone, Lamau. Yeah, Leaf here. I owned one of the Gen 1 ones and it was absolute dog shit. I upgraded to a Gen 2 and it was somehow even worse. Tons of FTEs and keyholing like crazy. As is, Yeah, they sucked. Nothing fundamentally wrong with it, but damn, do the chicks know about ergonomics or something? They redesigned the rifle by removing the carry handle in place of a flat top with rails, so you can mount optics of your choosing. Better ammo feed and raised cheek weld. Took Norinco grievances from Canadian customers instead of from fucking PLA to clean up the Type 97 design. A gun so good they're replacing it with an AR/AK hybrid. Impressive. Replacing their Tavor knockoff with a Galil knockoff. Holy hide over bore, Batman! I like it quite a bit. Shame they won't export the one with the better place safety selector. They're pretty light for bullpups, which I really appreciate. I heard China's doctrines changed since it came out. Apparently, those are supposed to be cheap to equip on many soldiers. Yup, $150 per gun, AFAIK. Imagine if we could still buy shit from Norinco. That feeling when no $250 bullpup. We all know they're banned because US gun makers literally cannot compete. Apparently, from what I've gathered from a few people, they're awful to use, very uncomfortable, very bad recoil, very bad controls and trigger. But they're absolutely unbreakable, which is surprising for shit. It's overbuilt as hell and meant for conscripts that won't really be shooting at all anyway. Plastic shit, like most rifles. Shit trigger, shit mag placement. Like all bullpups, high cheek weld, sight being placed so high it might as well be on a different floor. Like the FAMAS, shit caliber. Baseless opinion, considering no Westerner has ever fired this caliber. On paper, it's an excellent caliber. In a sense, it may be the best possible caliber. You get the lightweight and small profile of 5.56 and 5.45, but with a little bit more power and better performance at range. People saying it's shit seriously don't know what they're talking about. I like it. It's pretty. I don't care that it's ugly Chinese plastic. If they start shitting them out and selling them for like 100 a piece, I'd buy 2 of them. Mordecai Brofman, 28, a pro-Israel extremist, fired 17 shots at a father and son in Miami Beach, injuring both. Believing he had killed them, he smiled and told police, "I killed 2 Palestinians." However, the victims were not Palestinian. Ironically, they were Israeli tourists. Despite being shot, they immediately took to social media claiming they were attacked due to anti-Semitism, while at the same time writing the Arabs. 17 bullets, not a single fatality. Behold the power of 9mm. Expecting a dysgenic to have good aim. Attacker was Israeli, gloated about killing Palestinians. Victims were Israeli, took the chance to push the anti-Semitism angle. Hannibal Doctrine moment. Why did Destiny do this? I blame video games. Is this indicative of the IDF's training quality? Radical Zionist lunatic randomly attacks 2 people he thinks are Palestinian Muslims. They're actually Israeli Hebrews. Victims survive and immediately blame the attack on anti-Semitism. How in the actual fuck is this a real event? The entire clusterfuck of a situation sounds like a shitty old Pole schizo meme about shape-shifting Jews losing track of who is impersonating who. Shoots 2 Israelis, 17 rounds fired, only wounded. Coincidence? I'm glad we give these people our money. The power of 9mm. Meanwhile, 45 auto hits no one, 2 people die anyway. Many such cases. It's usually the 45 fags dying from natural causes due to advanced age. Ari Rabbi revealed that he was hit in the left shoulder while his father was scraped by a bullet wound in his left forearm. OP acts like all 17 hit vital spots but didn't kill them somehow. You're all sick people. I hope you all get cancer. Fuck yous all. I put a curse upon you all. Fuck your mother. Timeline got fucked up at some point and now I'm stuck in this clown world. Looks like Nick before his cocaine binge, Desu. Kay defends themselves from Jack the Ripper. You're a boy pussy prostitute and drag in Whitechapel in 1888, on your way to service the local glory hole. Suddenly you're round the corner and see this crazed Jewish barber muttering in Yiddish coming right at you with a knife. He thinks that you're a woman and have the organs that he wishes that he had. He wants to make a suit from them. Unlike his previous victims, however, you just stop by the local gun store today and have any pre-1888 firearm or other weapon and copious amounts of ammunition on your person. Should I use the square rounds? Colt SAA, obviously. Silly Americans. This is Britannia. We do not conquer the West with loading gates here. We sustain empires with top breaks and silly huge rounds. I pull my howdah from under my skirt. Thumper, 600 caliber. I'd prefer a rapier of some type against a knife attacker instead of a gun. A gun doesn't physically prevent someone with a knife from entering your space and fucking you up. Even if you shoot them a few times, they can still kill you, whereas a rapier or sword puts a large, dangerous physical barrier between you and the attacker. Always keep your back to the wall and be on the lookout just in case. Pop culture loves to portray him as some kind of a raving, mindless lunatic who jumps out and repeatedly stabs people like some crazy, cheap horror movie villain. But from what I've read on him, he was more methodical than that. It seems he cowardly attacked his victims from behind so they'd struggle less, and probably to avoid getting more blood spilled on him, with the mutilations being done post-mortem. So taking the main advantage of him getting a drop on you would be a very important first step. Well, that's not difficult. There's a good chance he's my cousin. Seriously, ignoring the scarf DNA stuff, which is spurious as hell. There were 7 main suspects, and the number one amongst them was quite possibly my great-great however many times cousin, Montague John Druitt. My father's middle name, Druitt, was from that side of the family. This may have caused some concern for an ex of mine who, just when we were starting to go out, had asked around various mutual friends to make sure I was okay, and not the Jack the Ripper's cousin or something. When she told me about this, after the fact all the mutual friends had told her I was a decent person, she couldn't understand when I ended up creased up with laughing so hard that I could barely breathe. I'm thinking that ex-friend needs to donate a kidney or two involuntarily. I'm thinking you need mental health care. You meet saner women than I do. I remember having a discourse with a bitch on Skype when I was in college. I could feel she found me boring, like most of her responses boiled down to, yeah, cool, nice to hear. I don't remember how the discussion got swayed into talking about fucking Ted Bundy of all people, but she suddenly became more enthusiastic and we ended up talking about serial killers, Lamau. She was an incredible, kind, elegant woman who was skilled in martial arts and had a fearsome intellect. When I met her, she was finishing her second master's degree. She kept having problems with plagiarism software, because her professional writing on her field of work was the go-to source material and she kept accidentally using the same phrasing in her papers. Also turned out she was a fantastic deviant in the bedroom, which was a plus. Unfortunately, she was stuck in a miserable marriage with a guy who treated her like a part of the furniture. Still, best 7 years of my life before he finally put pressure on her to stop the affair. I should have encouraged her to divorce and married her. Biggest regret of my life. Aim it sideways like a scholar for extra damage. I'm gonna grape him. It was good enough to stop Garfield. I am paying the extra 20 pence for ivory grips because I am a classy whore. In '88, this would have been a 30-year-old milsurp. Whip out my Colt Walker and unload in the general direction of Jack the Ripper. Smoke clears. Jack is dead in the streets. The horse 10 feet away has a fist-sized hole in its neck. A barrel full of whale oil has exploded like a wheat goon penis. A workhouse has a new window in its side. 5th shot misfires. Your wrist is broken in 3 places. London is safe. Step 1. Don't live in London. Step 2. Don't be a whore in a slum. Were guns a popular personal defense option in this period? I sort of got the sense a normal person would bring a large knife if they thought there'd be a serious fight. Am I just being affected by pop culture? They were certainly around. Your definition of popular might need to be more specific though. They were very popular. Women were, for the first time in history, exposed to men that weren't her father/husband without supervision. Lots of women armed up. Look at the anti-rape adverts the British Railways came out with during the period. A normal person would use his fists in a fight or carry a pistol and a big stick if he feared being assaulted for a big wad of cash. Criminals planning on doing in criminals like knives. Because the Met Police took a very dim view of crime affecting normal people, and if you went around blasting, you'd end up in prison or a river eel because of the local crime lord. Except the Jews, of course. They refused to testify against each other and enforced their own social standards. I just need plate armor and a smoothbore pistol. This is 1888, not 1688. You're going to get laughed at, then ventilated with a double-action 45. If Sherlock Holmes was real, what would he have used for self-defense? Would he be too much of a gentleman to use a weapon? Would a high-level crime figure like Moriarty be armed, or is that for his henchmen? He'd have just borrowed Dr. Watson's revolver as needed, like in the books. Although he did not often resort to using them, Holmes almost always carried a pistol and was known to be an excellent marksman. Note how he's able to shoot a VR into his flat's walls in Musgrave Ritual. Holmes' pistol of choice was the Webley RIC chambered in .442 Webley. Other handguns used by Holmes include the .450 short-barreled Webley Metropolitan Police Revolver, the Sign of 4, and the Webley .450 British Bulldog. Moriarty had an airgun disguised as a cane made by a German smith. For a firearm, I feel they should have given him something French to represent the long-standing Brit-Franco enmity, and because he is referred to as the Napoleon of crime. Holmes was a man of many talents, including physical discourse. He practiced bartitsu and was a proficient cane fighter. Another anon has pointed out his use of guns, and he was skilled with them. In a self-defense situation, he probably would have used what he felt was equivalent force. Bare knuckles to bare knuckles, cane to cane, gun for gun, or other lethal weapon, I suspect. Robert Downey Jr.'s depiction of Holmes' fighting prowess isn't off base. Stay away from my Johnson. Not 1880s weapon, but I imagine something similar could have been manufactured. My body wouldn't be the only thing getting ripped tonight. Smith & Wesson Big Iron. Hey Anons, it Daryl. I posted my Palmetto dagger last week and got banned. I promised to share some pics of me gun playing with my roommate's big iron, but then got banned. I also have a Smith & Wesson 9mm and some pictures I've taken before with it. If Anton wants to see it, I'm going to trade it in though to help pay for the dagger. Thank Daryl. Hi Daryl. 9mm hand cannon. I also, hey, never mind, can't find them at the moment. I'll look later. Thanks, Daryl. Hi, Daryl. Well within tolerances, Sar. Sig Sar. They should develop a barrel shutter. Isn't direct gas impingement supposed to vent through the holes in the side of the bolt? Normally, yes, it does. What you're seeing here is gas leaving the gun in any way possible since it can't go through the front as of this very slight moment. You don't understand. This is to vent more efficiently, Baka. Sig haters don't know what they're mad about. I guess if you get really creative, you can call this direct impingement. Literally every suppressed semi-auto does this. OP is a fag. I have a gassy .458 SOCOM and even that isn't as bad as OP. That's right, Sar. This is normal. Very normal, Sar. Please understand. Should have bought a PSA instead. Keck. OP just took a non-flow through can on his SBR, cranked the gas valve to an adverse setting, and everyone is falling for it. The only thing that is falling is shit into the gaps in those receiver parts. Add this to the collection of SIG products I don't want to own. I found the OP source and it's even worse than what he screen capped. To think that I was going to build a poor fag rattler at one point. I'm glad I dodged that bullet. Kind of at a loss at this point. I need your input. First, this wouldn't last round bolt hold open. Sent it to SIG for service and got it back, said they tuned it. I emailed SIG back saying in 15 years I've never shot any gun that's this gassy. My first AR was a Mark 18. How wide did they drill the gas port? SIG said they didn't widen the gas port, just changed the shape of the gas port from a hole to a dome to allow more gas. Now at last round bolt hold opens, but after 2 shots I have to step away. It's just too much gas. The port pop is insane too. It's crazy loud. Louder than my cat mob with subs and Surefire SOCOM 300 SPS. My right ear started ringing immediately after the first shot. I'll try it on the minus setting tomorrow with the same ammo, but I'm told they recommend the plus setting for shooting suppressed. SIG wants me to send it back. Said they'll replace the upper receiver, but I'm not sure how that's going to cut back on Satan's hot gas to my face. They said something about some upper receivers being out of spec causing gas to escape. Wouldn't fixing that make my gun more gassy with more port pop? SIG said they didn't widen the gas port, just changed the shape of the gas port from a hole to a dome to allow for more gas. That's fucking unhinged. There should be an equivalent diameter that represents the increased area.